Welcome. Jeez, I can't even talk this morning. Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. You see Zach Jackson there, and there's a lot to get to with Zach. With just 2 weeks to go in the regular season. Before we do that, Bet Rivers players will place a same-game parlay of at least $10 on NFL or NCAA football games. Will receive an entry into the weekly Squares game. Winning Squares can earn up to a $50 bonus bet per entry. See the Bet Rivers app or website for more details. Zach, how you doing this morning?
Happy 10 days left in the season, Bull.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We're down, but I say it's unbelievable. It's not. Nothing about this season is surprising. Nothing about this season is unusual. That's what's sad about this situation. Like you've seen, I've seen, you've seen longer than me, but at this point, it's been a while for me too. We've seen this same old sad ending to the season way more often than we haven't.
I think it's an interesting way to say it, and I think it's an important way to look at one of the disappointments of this whole deal, right? Like NFL seasons are unpredictable, right? They are competitive. They start out one way, they twist the other. You have to be adaptable. You have to encounter circumstances. And obviously the Browns have done that in a certain way. And when you look at like guys like Schlesinger and Fannin, there are some surprises to the positive.
Yeah.
But the main storylines, Bull, a good defense, a terrible offense, major roster holes getting exposed, and a lack of real progress that revolves around the quarterback position, but certainly is tied to major personnel failures that don't allow the quarterback to succeed, right? And being in last place again and playing for draft position and coming to a game where you just played in a stadium full of the other team's fans and a game this week where you don't even want to win, right? This was all predictable. This is all we talked about in May right here and in other platforms, right?
Yeah.
And it's come that way. So in that regard, it's time for the Browns to move on and let the new guys make a lot of the hard decisions, because this Deshaun Watson thing is not over with yesterday's announcement or with this other miserable season that's caused by Deshaun Watson, right?
Yeah.
This thing is going to linger. And, a lot of these things going forward are not just on him, but the decisions they made to push money forward on older players, right? And now they have major cap issues and decisions to make that way outweigh any excitement by having 4 to 6 positive rookies on the team.
Yeah, and sometimes we cover this team for so long, you kind of become numb to it in a way, or just used to it. It's just like Joe Thomas talked about. He admitted that like later in his career, you don't like the losing, but you have to find a way to get used to it. But for the fans in particular, it really sucks. Like the fans of this team. It's not like when I worked in New York, it was more of a balance between baseball, football, basketball, the interest, right? We know that's not the case here. So many fans, their whole identity as a Clevelander is tied up in this team that just kicks sand in their face every single year. It's just horrible.
Well, I don't want to dispute that you become numb to it, because I think that's, as a generalization, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you get to the end of a second straight 3-win season, under these circumstances, where last year they started as the most expensive team in NFL history, and this year they kind of tried to embrace the fact that it was going to be weird, but like they clearly didn't know what they wanted to do at quarterback, which is the most important position in sports, right? And now you're here again, and the offense has completely bottomed out when you have an offensive head coach, and you're not just losing because you're lining up a subpar offensive line. You're constantly having special teams errors. The defense has been on the field for 5 months and now can't get a stop, right? So, this circumstance is different. If you want to look at 26 years in totality and say that you're numb to it and you're disgusted by it, absolutely. And I hear that every day. I hear that from hardcore fans, from casual fans, from young fans, from older fans.
Yeah.
But in this circumstance, Bull, there is no way that if there is any feel inside that organization, there is no way that they can say, we can continue with any part of this, because this thing is sunk, and it's been sunk. And we talked about it in the spring. It was sunk. There's going to be a practice. There's going to be a training camp. There's going to be one good moment in the season. But it is sunk.
And to your point, the only real way to have hope is to have new people making the decisions.
Like some of this stuff, like they've opened a window this year, and like there's any positivity. Like why would anybody think that for 1 second?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Quinshon Judkins is a good player, and it's a shame that he got hurt,
Yeah.
and they need him to come back. And like he could be 1,000-yard back, in a good part of a functional offense.
Right.
And Harold Fannin is a revelation, right?
Yeah.
Now, and this is not to disparage him at all, but like he has to catch the ball because there's no one else.
Nobody.
He's had to do way more than expected.
Yeah.
And good for him as a 21-year-old from the MAC for embracing all of these roles.
Yeah.
Right. But like this is a terrible product in which the top 6 offensive linemen don't have contracts for next year. And before they start doing gymnastics, total almost $50 million in dead money for next year.
Yeah.
And then some of them extends beyond next year, which is why they have to make decisions on how to handle it and when to take it on. Right?
Yeah.
Like the David Njoku thing finally completely flopped. Right? There's no sufficient backup
right.
for Quinshon Judkins. And Jerry Jeudy has been the most embarrassing player in the National Football League.
Besides that, what else? What else is the problem? There's nothing. I guess and then we've got everybody screaming and yelling at each other about whether Shedeur Sanders can be the quarterback of the future.
But let me say this, Bull. This is a basic number, but this outlines it. Jeudy has 43 catches, which is pathetic for anybody's number.
Hideous, yeah.
It's 30 catches behind Harold Fannin. The next 3 guys that they started the season with, Tillman, Bond, and Thrash, who combined to be like 1.2% of a real NFL player.
Yeah.
They have 2 more catches than Jeudy has combined.
It is amazing. The numbers are mind-blowing. And so this offseason, if they have any chance of turning this around, they have to get a new GM. They have to get a new coach. Do they have to get a new quarterback?
There's different ways to look at it. They probably do. And there's certainly going to be one new quarterback in this mix.
Yes.
Right. Whether that's the guy that they decide is the guy for the future, whether they decide that's a veteran, whatever. Look, I'm not disappointed in how Shedeur has played, and I am not dismissing Shedeur because I think that would be silly if you take an honest look at where he is in his career, which is very early.
Right.
But I think you would also be just as silly, if not more, to think that he has shown anything to make you think that he can be the guy. Right. So you take that out. Now, how else is he the guy in 26? Well, you make a conscious decision that you're going to spend these resources on other positions. You're going to go get a veteran. You embrace the whole thing that you're multiple years away, and you let Shedeur play next year, and then evaluate him after an offseason in a different setting, right? With the caveat being, you either found your guy, which is the most direct way out of this Watson mess, found him at no cost, pick 144, right? Or then you're in the quarterback derby in 2027. So, what complicates that is if you have the number 2 pick, don't you almost have to take a quarterback? Again, another argument point, but you almost have to. And you have to explore all options. And then whoever's in charge, whether it's new guys or not, or whether it's combination of new front office, same head coach, or vice versa, even though that seems unlikely, those people have to decide whether they want Shedeur around and what their evaluation of Shedeur is. And we don't know because there are things to like about Shedeur, and there are reasons to say, hey, this guy can be the guy. And in an ideal world, you would probably let him stay to some extent. But now you have the outside factors of he's played, going to be finish the season starting 7 games here. He has this popularity. Can he be the backup? Can you the dynamics of your team? And I don't know. And again, and it really, before you get to that, it comes down to the football evaluation. And we don't know yet who's going to be making that call on him.
Right. And is the drama that surrounds him, whether it's his fault or not, is that a factor in the decision? And it probably is.
Yeah, and it's a secondary thing, but it is. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Like, you can make the case that in multiple ways these guys have failed in the dynamics. And a lot of that comes to Watson, right? Because when you have a quarterback that makes this much money, he has to be your unquestioned leader.
Yeah.
Right. And he has to be good enough that when you go through the rough times, the guys in that locker room believe in him. And that just never happened for many reasons, mostly that he wasn't good enough. So then they said, okay, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to bring Flacco back. We know the organization loves him. We know people love him. And then they pull the plug on him after 4 games for a guy who can't play at all.
Right. Yeah. And that alone. And that's why, there's shockingly a number of people, including some of your fellow beat reporters and other media members, who think that Andrew Berry has done enough to keep his job based on this draft, which is mind-blowing to me right now, because even if I give that Mason Graham and Quinshon Judkins are good players, And Judkin's coming off an injury, and Mason Graham's got to be a superstar since you drafted him at 5, and I'm not sure he is. Yeah. But the fact that your evaluation of quarterbacks told you that Dylan Gabriel should be a 3rd-round pick, to me, is all I need to know. That is the final straw. If I didn't have enough already, that there's no way Andrew Berry should be able to pick the next quarterback. No way. I can't believe anybody would disagree with that. It's stunning to me.
The top of Andrew Berry's quarterback resume is Deshaun Watson and Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, right.
And beyond that, it's DTR, PJ Walker, and Shedeur Sanders.
Right.
Sorry, not good enough.
No. So, but here's the thing now. Let's say Jimmy does the smart thing. You don't always want to bet on that, but let's say he does the smart thing, fires Stefanski, fires Berry, and the new GM says, hey, listen, we got the 2nd pick, we got the 1st pick, I'm drafting a quarterback here. In my mind, if I'm that guy, I'm saying to Jimmy, I know it's a huge cap hit. I don't care. I want Watson out. And you can do it. I know it's a huge cap hit, but if you get a rookie quarterback, you don't have to spend big money in free agency next year. You maybe sign 1 offensive lineman, maybe 2. I don't know. And then you draft, besides the quarterback, you draft offensive linemen, you draft wide receivers. But if I'm him, if I'm the GM, I'm saying no way I want Watson here with a rookie quarterback.
I agree, Bull. Like every time he's mentioned, it's just embarrassing for the organization.
Totally embarrassing.
And it's just time to move on. So I agree that when you look at it, a difference of $40 million.
Yeah.
Right, which is, let's see, the cap is going to be around 300. So we're talking about a huge hit there.
Yeah.
Right. But like the best thing is to move on. And that's whether Shedeur and Gabriel both stay. That's whether one of them stays. That's whether you're fully embracing like you're not going to be good and you're just bringing in a very mid-level like tryout free agent and you're letting Shedeur play.
Yeah.
Again, we're way ahead of this. But guys, let's just be honest. There is no way that a quarterback room for next year could be the number 2 pick, Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson.
No.
That's just not like
no.
And again, if Deshaun Watson plays next year, 4 games, 6 games, 8, and plays even decently, which is his ceiling.
Yeah.
What do you accomplish? He's not under contract.
No.
And every time he goes out there, it's embarrassing for you. And it means that you're not playing other guys who might be in your future plans.
Right. It's totally useless to have him here.
Like I had someone tweeting me this week, well, the organization likes Deshaun Watson. I said, the who? The what? I said, the reason they're going to get fired, they love him? Like, think about what you're saying.
It's crazy. People can be conned into anything. I mean, we've seen that. To me, if you draft a quarterback at 2, you go with that guy, keep Dylan Gabriel as your 3rd quarterback, and then you sign, whatever, some sort of veteran to be the backup. A veteran you rely on. Even if it's Jacoby Brissett, I don't know. Although Jacoby Brissett might have gotten himself a starting job, who knows? But somebody like that, I think. If you go the other way and you don't draft a quarterback, then you keep Shedeur, you get rid of Dylan Gabriel. In my opinion, in that case, I'd still get rid of Watson either way, and then I bring in a vet, whatever. So I'd bring in a veteran either way.
Yeah, and in that case, like you're either making a trade for Mac Jones, which is going to be a semi-big commitment because you're going to be giving up one of your valuable draft picks.
Right.
Or you're just taking on like a Malik Willis, a Trey Lance, playing with Shedeur, and then you're drafting another one like in the mid-rounds.
That's right.
Right. And you're basically saying blank slate. And in the circumstances under which you would do that is when you did move on from Watson and now you're really pinching pennies in putting your team together. Right. So, and these are decisions that don't need to be made right away. If you do move on from Watson, it's designated as a post-June 1 cut. You have all this time to do it. You can do it at any time, but realistically, you could wait till after the draft to do it.
Yeah.
And see how it goes. Do you end up making trades with these first picks? How does it go? We don't know any of those things, right?
Yeah.
But like I agree, Bull. Like every time I hear that he's going to be here, that there's some thought, like you're not making progress.
No.
And you're showing a lack of feel. So that to me is why I'm like, let's not jump there because we don't even know who's going to be in charge. And if it is new people that come in, you would think that they would say, hey, we need to move past this.
Right.
Now, right. We've seen it a dozen times here. The easiest thing to do is get rid of what was in front of you. The building is the harder part. But in this case, where this is the one big thing that sunk you.
Yeah.
Right. And how you're going to be remembered. You would think they would say, let's just do it. Let's just move on.
Pull the Band-Aid.
The quicker it's off the books,
the
quicker he's out of the locker room, it's better. and we let these guys succeed. And clearly the expectations for next year would not be real high. But in what world are they real high?
None.
It's Harold Fannin being a superstar and Mac Jones being the quarterback, or Shador being a superstar.
Yeah.
And the defense replicates what it does, right? And you draft like 2 phenomenal tackles,
right?
Or you somehow find a tackle in mid-level free agency, which history says isn't there.
Yeah.
Like all of these things. And then it's taking on more money for the future to try to pace together one thing, like probably tearing this down near the studs and playing as many young guys as possible. Until this team had to do some shuffling with some guys getting hurt, it was 14 of the 53 were rookies.
Right.
Like next year at Christmas, certainly 24, but maybe as many as 30 of the 53 are going to be first or second year players.
Right.
That's just a reality.
Yeah. And if you have a GM you trust and you get those guys right, then the turnaround can happen eventually. But it's to turn it around. First of all, they can't fix the whole offensive line in 1 year. It's impossible. You can't do it, right? I mean, there's no way you could fix 5 spots in one season.
Like it's important that Luke Whippler is competent, because you have him under cheap contract for next year. If he can be your center,
right,
be the guy that the coaching staff trusts to help along that quarterback and just be solid and play.
Yeah,
like that's huge. There's nobody else.
No,
there's nobody else. They've drafted 1 offensive lineman in 2 years at Zach Zinter. He barely dresses for the games.
No,
DeJuan Jones is under contract. Will come back. All 3 of his seasons have landed on IR. So you can pencil him in as the starting right tackle for next year, but it's only in pencil.
Yeah. You can't trust him at all. Now, let me ask you about when it comes to the coach-GM dynamic, are you more in favor of let's hire a GM and have him be part of the process to pick the coach, or are you do you prefer like what the Niners did, where the coach basically hires the GM?
Yeah, although I think it's important that you believe in that way, I think it works both ways.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
And it comes down to how well do you draft and how guys adapt and work together, quite frankly. So I'm not going to have a strong opinion on that. You would love to get a coach who comes in and is truly your mouthpiece and your spokesperson and your front man, right? Was Mike Tomlin that right away for the Steelers? I don't know, but that's ideally, to me, probably what you would have. However, I could see where you say this is the GM. He's going to set the roster vision, and the roster is always going to be the most important thing.
Yep.
So then we're going to let him find what traits he seeks in a coach who's going to need some thick skin and need to be able to grow into his job when he comes here.
Oh yeah.
Right. And like, this is looking like we're here on Christmas Eve, 25. I almost forgot what year it is, because it's been a long 2 years, but we're looking, Bull, at late October 27. What does this team look like? That's what we're looking at, and you want to win games along the way, and you want to identify things both good and bad, because there's not one straight line, right? Like no one is going to come in here next year and win 4 and then win 10, without bump. Maybe it will, but
it's unlikely.
Right. Identifying along the way, hey, we're right about this.
Right.
We need to pivot on this. We were wrong about this, and move along. Like Andrew Berry made some good trades along the way. Frankly, his best 2 trades, he had to turn around and trade back because they stunk so bad. And when they made the trade for Amari Cooper and picked up a top 100 pick, that was good for the Browns. They knew Amari Cooper was done. They used the pick on Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, but you're right. He made a couple of good moves, but the bad moves far. Sure,
he traded for Deshaun Watson and Jerry Jeudy.
And Elijah Moore. Throw that one in there.
And Elijah Moore. Yeah, you almost forget.
Yeah,
right? You people forget that they drafted Mike Hall in the second round. This is an absolute joke, Bull.
Yeah, they used a second round pick on Mike Hall. They used the second round pick to and drop down to the third round to get Elijah Moore.
Right.
I mean, you missed an opportunity to get 2 really good players in the second round.
And the best pick they made for a while, or one of the best picks, was Martin Emerson. People forget he's got a major injury and doesn't have a contract. The punter doesn't have a contract. Right. That's an important job for next year.
He's one of your best players.
Yeah, right. So this
wild.
is why, every dollar is going to count. And so that's why you say, okay, it makes it on paper, it makes sense that this team has to ride this Watson thing out. It just, nothing's played on paper, and it just doesn't make it's best to move on. So we'll see how it goes, because there might be frankly, the numbers might just not match up.
All right, let's spend a minute or two actually talking about this game. Obviously, as an organization, you should want the Browns to lose, but Kevin Stefanski's not going out there trying to lose. The Steelers will have nothing to play for if the Ravens lose on Saturday, which could be ironic if Mason Rudolph is the guy that Myles Garrett breaks the record against. Steelers are only a 3-point favorite. I guess that might change if the Ravens win. But what do you make of the game?
Yeah, it's very hard to say. Because of these circumstances. I think regardless of what happens on Saturday night, I think for the first 20, 25 minutes, we're going to know. Do the Steelers come out and run the ball at will and take charge of the game and force a turnover? Yeah. Or, last week there was a really good script and they thought it was a pretty good start for the Browns offense. So then do they put pressure on them? And then are the Steelers in a spot where they don't need it? Because then it would be easy for the Steelers to say, okay, you guys have your win. Cost yourself the number 2 pick. That's fine. We're going to get back on the bus and go home. We're going to be home by 6:30.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So I think we're going to know early in this one. I do think, obviously, the Myles Garrett storyline, and I do think it's an important opportunity for Shedeur Sanders to play against the Steelers. To play another home game, just to play another game where they do have some things to build on this week. Now, they only had 2 plays of more than 20 yards. One was a trick play, one was a screen. Let's be honest. But the way they moved the ball through that game and the way they stayed alive with the help of the defense and Dawson Knox dropping that, it's something to build. That's where we are. You're looking at anything to build on. And I think 4 quarters of Shedeur Sanders against the Steelers defense, regardless of who's actually in or out or what the circumstances are, that's fine. Let's see what happens. Rocket Sanders playing for an NFL career. Right? The Gage Larvidens and Malachi Corleys of the world playing for an NFL career. Let's see what happens.
I said yesterday I thought this was Shedeur's toughest challenge playing against the Steelers because it's a division game. And, Mike Tomlin's his defense always seems to play well against rookies. So, by the way, do you care about any of this? Like that half a sack last week was a little lame. One less game, then one more game than Strahan. Do you feel like he has to break it clearly this week or no?
Yeah, I mean, I think he would, and he obviously came out and said he wants to get to 25. Of that. As strange as last week was, the more I've thought about it, I think it's the right ruling. Josh Allen gave himself up.
That's true. That's fair.
So it's weird. The whole thing's weird. The guy's going to break the record on this awful team. So, wild. Now, he didn't get to Rodgers in game 1, right? So I don't think he's sacked Aaron Rodgers. So that adds a little to it. And then he's sacked Burrow as much as anybody. I think he and Lamar are the 2 guys he's got the most, which makes sense. So I wouldn't put it past Myles having a multi-sack game in week 18. And if he does that, there's no asterisks. But all this stuff, like we talk about it, it goes in the books. People, Myles is going to Canton. Regardless.
Right. It doesn't matter
whether this lands on 24 or 27. And frankly, we'll watch Myles come back next year and try to get to 20. What is it? 13 guys who have ever gotten to 20. I mean, it's an
incredible.
It's an insane thing.
The Steelers,
he's an insane talent.
The Steelers, obviously, DK Metcalf is their only wide receiver. He's suspended for the game. I mean, obviously, they'll be hitting the tight ends a lot. Kenneth Gainwell's had a nice – they always get these guys like Kenneth Gainwell to just do something, right?
They know what they want to be, right? It's not super sexy. This Darnell Washington's like a cartoon character.
Oh, my God, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a treat to watch him in person. It really is. And he came out on that one podcast and said he weighs 311.
Yeah, it's just nuts. Would the Steelers' number 2 tight end be the best offensive lineman on the Browns? I think that's the question.
Yeah, the Browns did take a long look at Washington and what they would make him if they got him in. Freiermuth's a solid player. Johnny Smith has been a productive player at times through this league. So that's where they'll go. They'll try to run it. They'll probably take one shot to kind of loosen it up, but we'll see. If Rodgers is getting hit and they've clinched, they're just going to yank him. They don't care. So that's what's interesting here. But it is fun to watch Darnell Washington play football. And,
no doubt.
With the 2 backs that they use, they are going to come out and they're going to give the Browns the same off-tackle runs that they've been getting the last few weeks that they've really struggled with early in games. So we'll see what kind of tone they're able to set.
What do you make of that? Last thing, we'll wrap it up with this because the Bills game was weird, right? The Bills, the first 3 drives, they marched right down the field, 3 touchdowns, and then they barely moved the ball after that. The defense overall for the last 3 weeks played pretty poorly. What do you is it that much Malik Collins?
I think to an extent. I think they're tired. I think teams have found some runs that work, and that's part of how it goes. And it's what they can do off of it. Allen hit a couple of bootlegs off the stuff and a couple he missed. Even going back to the Niners game, remember that first game, they hit the action where the fullback was running wide open, and they tried to go back to it after that. It didn't really work. If the Browns would have put up any other offense,
right.
All year long, the story has been the Browns can't get their phases clicking together. Yeah. So we'll see. We know the Steelers throw the short misdirection stuff. It's what they do. It's not a team that's doing it because it works against the Browns. It's what they do. So we'll see. And last game, the Steelers didn't have to score many. They ended up pouring it on because the Browns offense was so inept. So again, to me, it's the first 20 minutes of, do they get gashing runs where they get the lead, or do they struggle, and can the Browns score and then make the Steelers react? And if it's a game that they don't need to win, they might honestly laugh their way back to the bus and say, okay, you guys just cost yourself the number 2 pick.
That would be so Browns of them.
Yeah.
To do that.
A week ago, I would have said the Browns are certainly losing out, but I am not now. I think the Browns can win this game because I think I just laid out the path for what it would be.
No doubt about it. Zach, great stuff as always. Thanks for joining me.
All right, Bull. We'll see you soon.
All right. As always, great talking with Zach Jackson of The Athletic. Make sure you check out his work there. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening today. Everybody continue to have a great holiday season. We'll see you after the Browns game on Sunday, week number 17. Following the game with the Steelers, I'll be on live with the post-game show. Dustin will be on with me Tuesday next week. We'll have Zach Jackson next week as well. And then the final post-game of the 2025 season, although that game will be in 2026, will be coming up as well. Thanks to Z and Ernie for producing today. Thanks, everybody, again. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. See you, everybody.